I want to talk a little bit about us as a kind of a community. So I want to talk about the tone of the community. Feels weird sitting down, but with this, I'm going to have to. So yesterday, my 6-year-old son read this poem in school. Now We Are Six by A.A. Milne. So of course, as parents, we wanted to research this A.A. Milne, very famous guy, but we looked him up. And middle name, same as mine. That was fun. But more interesting, his teacher was H.G. Wells. That was kind of cool, but guess who he played cricket with? I'm going to try to minimize the people on the side so I don't cover too much of the screen. Okay. So that was kind of a cool surprise. You probably know at least half of them. So that made me think of our community. And it made me think of lunatics. Because there was a lunar society of Birmingham in the 1700s, late 1700s. And just have a look at the names. That's Charles' grandfather, I think. So when I look at the community, what we're trying to do is be social and nice, but also have interesting connections with a really diverse group of people, which is becoming more and more important. So I was also thinking, what would it be like to be at Doug's lab at SRI in the 60s? To sit there over coffee and have those discussions, or at Xerox Park. Livia can tell us some of that. She was there. What was it like to be at Bandley 5? Okay, I need to know how many people here know what Bandley 5 was. Really, Keith? That's where they developed the Macintosh. That was where the pirates of Band. I'm embarrassed, and in the best possible way. Anyway, so to put it in other words, more explicitly, what we're trying for distributed, because obviously we're not all together all the time, casual, friendly, and passionate about the future of thought, primarily with text and extended in many directions. Today is a lot about XR, VR, and all of that good stuff, but by no means by itself. That's really, really important to re-emphasize. The reason for the XR is partly to cash in on the hype, to be honest, because not a lot of people care about text. So now we have a hype thing that people either passionately agree or disagree with, which is fine. At least they have an interest in it, right? So that's me saying thank you for being here. I'm extremely grateful. That includes you online guys as well, of course. And Bint, actually, I do have a few more words, but you'll talk after me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the future of text and XR, it is really important to remind ourselves that text already extends our reality. And as I just said, VR, AR is trendy, so it can help us dream again. And the dreaming thing is so important. The ones who have been spending the most time with me recently have heard me go on and on. Because we need to dream again for text in an extended space. Doug and Ted and all these people in the 60s and 70s did amazing stuff. And then we ended up with this, applications on a laptop. We could have done more. So we need to dream again for traditional space as well. There's so much that can be done in traditional displays. We should not leave that behind. When we talk about VR, we're talking about immersive environments. We really don't care how they become immersive. It could be projectors, implants, glasses, headsets, whatever. And we're primarily talking about interactions with knowledge. I like to think of the headsets as thinking caps. We're not going to be wearing them all day in the future, but just like sometimes all we need is our watch. Sometimes we'll need a full environment to think and we take it off. So here's the thing. We need to be careful with what we build in terms of tools, of course, infrastructures, which a lot of us have talked about, and maybe most importantly, people's expectations. Danilo, what colors have I got on the screen? Ukraine colors. I didn't know if you're going to be here today, but I think it's important, even when we're sitting here talking about information, to acknowledge the realities of the day. There are real shit problems we need to deal with. So Slava Ukraina. Text in VR, well, yes. Yuli, who might be online or not, joined us. before, and this is one of his pieces. It's absolutely crazy. It looks horrible here because of the low quality video. It's really hard to capture the experience, as many of you know. But one of the amazing things is not just you see nodes connected. If you make a fist, that means you grab the whole world. So if you move it like this, the whole entire workspace moves towards you. I think that's mind-boggling. It just makes it literally graspable. So we are now at the point where this stuff isn't theory, people use it. And quite a few of us today have headsets, so the ones who haven't been in it later today will be putting them on. And what I hope we do today and tomorrow, and in general, is to come up with better questions together. The together thing is really important. Doug Engelbart talked about augmenting human intellect so we could solve urgent, complex problems collectively. And the more I look at our community, the more I see we need diversity of thought from many different perspectives. And somebody mentioned once something about, oh, we can't just let anyone in. It was meant in a kind way. And I realized we can't judge them because we don't know what the criteria is for someone else to join the community and somehow they're passionate about text and thinking. If we disagree with everything they say, all the better, right? So this is a call to arms to think about thought in multiple dimensions of freedom. And this is the thing, this is what's so incredible. Right now, this is a magic space. It's mostly in the imagination. The imagination is being shriveled by Apple and Meta because they're defining it. Everything they define in interaction, we have less opportunity for thinking. It's becoming more and more of a commercial space. Do you remember the early web? You know, this is the freedom space and blah, blah, blah. And what do we have today? You know, let's not dwell on that. So we must continue to nourish the most powerful human capability. Just to check if you're not asleep already. What do you think that is? Close. Well, that's the story. So my early mentor was Doug Engelbart, and he once complained that someone said, Doug, you're just a dreamer. And he got really angry and he said, dreaming is hard work. And I've always thought that was a nice quote and it was nice, but now that we're looking at XR, for a year and a half now in this community, we've been really trying to build better things and we've achieved almost nothing. Dreaming really, really is hard. Just to say that this entire room can be knowledge, once you get down to it, what does that mean? It's really hard. So I do ask you, what can happen when the constraints of the substrate disappears, right? Because we cannot easily separate environment from tool anymore. I have a thing over there I'll show you later, or information from interaction. So let's just look at a few specific questions. A document in VR, a traditional document. Open it, comfortable reading, distance, floating in space, that's nice. So then I do a thing, and all the pictures go there, and the graph goes there. That's nice. Something like this. This is what we've been experimenting with. So then we get questions of geometric or semantic addressability. What is that picture on the wall? Is that defined as the picture wall? Is it the north wall? Is it just that rectangle? That's going to have huge repercussions for how we go from space to space. And of course, these are all generative AI, in case you're wondering. But how cool is this one, right? What might symbol manipulation? Some people call text symbol manipulation. At scale, what will it be? That's the big question for us. And what about links and connections? What will it mean to link? What will it mean to connect? When it's not a thing, when it's an entire space. And then questions of tools, including portability and physicality. In Rome for hypertext, I passed around an Obsidian. It's there. I'll send it after so I don't disrupt. But there's all this thing about just using hands in VR. Why in the world would you want to do that? I think that's entirely stupid. For some interactions, yes, it's nice to look at something and do this. But seriously, could you imagine any tool person in the history of our species not wanting to hold something? Right, so we need to hold different types of tools, not just games controllers. So that's going to be interesting. Also, if you have a tool in one environment and you really like it, can you take that tool somewhere else? You can't take a pen from Photoshop somewhere else today, but can you and should you be able to do that in this environment? So then we get questions of transfer and access and shared spaces. If we're in a VR environment now, what are you seeing? Are you seeing this as data, or are you seeing this as an image? Is some of it blurred out because you don't have the access? These are important questions. And then Mark, while we were walking in Rome, asked, what will work be in this environment? Work may become something entirely different. We're probably going to do the editing and the normal things we're doing now in VR, but work will probably change. Like work today is not the same as it was 100 years ago. Similarly, what will thinking be? How will thought change when everything we see can be interactive? And then what will our bodies be? We will move differently because our movements will mean different things in there. And as a consequence, what will our minds become? So these are some of the questions. And I think it comes down to the big O, ownership, right? I was a teacher a few years ago with Keith over there, about 10 years ago. And we had a Future of Tech at LCC. And I was telling the story of the early days of the internet. And why don't let Vince tell it? Who were you? Were you the big companies, or who were you when you developed the internet?
So where were you?
As in what? The point of the story is you were basically a student. You were. The point of the story wasn't big companies telling you what to do.
Oh. Big companies didn't tell us what to do at all. Nobody told us what to do. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Investigators didn't tell us what to do, so we went on and did something. And nobody stopped us. So that was, we executed in an environment of great freedom, which is not as much the case for you right now, because in order to achieve your objectives, you don't have to deal with these entities called. I wasn't supposed to be.
This is not your full talk.
No.
This is just your about that talk.
Well, so specifically, what Frode is trying to do is convince people that what he has built is worth their investing in and distributing so others to use it. And that turns out to require a commercial argument, which we didn't have to make. So your world is spreader than ours was.
In some ways, yes, thank you. But also, bringing in Bent like this for two reasons. One is the earlier bit about our community. I mean, of all the people in this room, in 1,000 years, your name, Bent, will be remembered. No, I'm not trying to butter you up, which I finally found out the origins of the phrase, but that's something else. The point of the story, what you and Bob Kahn did, created the underlying system for interconnected networks. That means that all of this is possible. And the other reason I brought you in on this with ownership, with the community, we have venture for crying out loud. We have the ability, if we show the passion, to reach out to different kinds of people. That is really, really important. And then finally, who were they? At the time, nobodies, right? That is really, really important. So the work is what matters. So in kind of closing, VR extends our potential. And that is Keith holding up the headset for my son. So how we choose to extend ourselves defines who we are and who we want to be. That's really, really, really important. We're living in an age of weird politics. But with this stuff, we can choose, us and everybody who was involved with this, to extend and choose who to be. It's protean. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And that goes to the dreaming. We have to remind ourselves of that. So apparently I have a final point. The most fundamental aspect of the universe. Anyone? Ferris? Bueller?
Existence, for one thing.
Ah, that's nice. For crying out loud, you two go somewhere else. The most fundamental aspect of existence is not matter or information, but interaction. Without interaction, there is nothing else. And we're building and talking about building fully interactive environments. So let's use this most fundamental aspect of what is to push it as far as we can. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here. And now we need to find out who would like to present first.
Maybe your mic is still running from your laptop instead of the external.
Oh, really? Is the sound not very good anymore?
Somebody mentioned it in the chat.
Okay.
It's more the sound was good. It's good from you, but if it was supposed to have been improved by passing Vint, the device, I guess maybe your iPhone, that it
Oh, no.
didn't seem to change it.
The Vint thing was passed with this, so that's an issue. The big Yeti microphone is for here, so we have to be careful with that. Sorry about that.
Yes. Okay.
On and morning, Brandel. It's middle of the night for you, isn't it? Anybody online want to present now, or anyone here want to go first? Livia, you want to go? Or anyone else ready?
I don't mind. You can go whenever you like.
Oh, are you going? Okay. Right. I will just hand it on to Dave because he's sitting right next to me. How are we communicating?
PowerPoint on there.
Piece of Lego, correct.
Building blocks.
Building blocks, yes. Excuse me. You know what to do.
If you bring it up.
Yeah.
If you're presenting next to the Yeti, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are we?
Does that mean that you're making the abominable presentation next to the Yeti?
Oh, well. Is that the? Excellent. There we go here. I forgot you're not a PowerPoint man, Fred. Got a share here? Play. Right, that's great. And I guess we have to.
I'm going to take your seat.
You're already sharing screen, aren't you?
Yes, screen is shared, so all you need to do is.
Okay, so I grab a seat here. So hopefully everyone can hear me online and can see the slides. So there's talking about interactions and relationships. It just occurred to me that I'm